privilege known to the law. Courts on a daily basis bend over backwards to uphold it. And here we see not just an undermining of it, but a total throwing out of the window of this privilege in this situation with the High Court call, an atrocious breach, and there's no doubt about that. Now, once you undermine a person who has been charged with an offence, undermine their confidence in their ability to be open and honest with their lawyer, the whole system is in trouble. When we had one person that was thought to be really a one-off and a unique situation, and perhaps a rogue operator, that was pretty bad. But now to find out that there could be multiple and perhaps 6 lawyers doing this, that will undermine the public's confidence and anyone charged with an offence, their confidence in their lawyers, and that's a real problem for the judicial system.
Were you surprised to learn that Lawyer X was giving information to police since 1995?
Yes, I mean that's an enormous revelation. And what really surprised me though is that the Herald Sun broke this story. You've got to go back and look at the history of this story. The Herald Sun broke this story in March of 2014. Now they fought for a number of years until it was November, December just last year, so a number of years later, when finally we had the High Court's decision and the ability to speak more publicly and more freely about this, and we had then public comment from government, the calling of the Royal Commission, and we had the Victoria Police come out and make statements at that stage about the history of this. Now, that means that the Victoria Police had 4 years to find out what the real position was, and to come out and tell us at the end of last year that one thing was the case, that is that this was done during the height of the Gangland War, when really this was going on since 1995, and they've had 4 years. They can't say, in my view, that they were caught on the hop back a couple of months ago, because they've been fighting to keep this secret for more than 4 years. So it's absolute hopelessness at best, and it's downright deceitful at worst. And there's lots of questions to be that are going to have to be answered about this, but one of them is, why is it that the public weren't told the full story just a couple of months ago when the Victoria Police came out and made some statements about this, when they knew full well that this was coming?
Yeah, that's a very good question, but police say the 10-year discrepancy was simply a record-keeping error. How does that happen?
Look, I could understand if they were caught on the hop. You've got different police stations registering different informers.
They were hopping for 10
years. You've got different districts, and perhaps it wasn't centralised. 1995 is a long time ago, and perhaps it wasn't centralised enough. And if this was a revelation that came out, hit the newspapers, and the police were having to comment on it within a day or a week, perhaps even a month, you could imagine that they might not necessarily be able to go right back in time. But here we had the Victoria Police since March of 2014 fighting to keep this matter under wraps and keep it suppressed, and fighting in the courts. So how it is that in all that time they didn't go back, that someone didn't go back and check their record keeping, and how is it that in that 4 year period or 4.5 year period they couldn't find out the right answer, but from December or November of last year until now they've been able to find that out. That just record keeping for mine just doesn't cut it. And as I say, if it is record keeping, it's hopelessness. But it makes me worry, given the way this story's been unfolding. It makes me worry that perhaps it was worse than hopelessness.
So what does it all mean for the convictions which took place during this time period? Will they be overturned? We're talking about the likes of Tony Mockbell and Rob Karam.
Yes, well, look, I don't think we can say right at this stage that they will necessarily be overturned. What I think we can say is two things. Firstly, there is going to be a great number of cases that this will affect. It was going to always be a lot of cases when it was one lawyer acting as a police informant, but now we find out that it might be up to 6, or who knows, perhaps even more. The legal fraternity is a pretty small fraternity really in any state that practices in only criminal law, and it mightn't seem like a lot of lawyers involved in this, but the number of cases that those lawyers could touch is quite extraordinary. So the first thing is it's going to involve and affect a whole stack of cases. The number will be an extraordinary number. And secondly, I think we can say that at least some of those cases and the convictions that were obtained in those cases will be in jeopardy, at least. I don't think we can go so far as to say yet, without more information that hopefully we'll have from the Royal Commission, but I don't think at this point we can say they will necessarily be overturned.
Justin Quill, what happens next? We've already lost one of the two Royal Commissioners over this, and the first public hearings are scheduled for next week.
Yes, that's right. Well, look, public hearings starting next week. We'll have opening submissions, no doubt, from Counsel Assisting Chris Winicky QC. I think we're going to have first witnesses over a very short period of time, just into March. So we're not too far away at all from that. But an extraordinary date in my mind is the first report by 1 July. That's a very short time frame when this goes back so far and involves so many potential cases. Royal Commissions are known for blowing out both in cost and time, and I hope I'm wrong about this, but I fear that this one and the tentacles that are reaching into so many different cases, I fear that this might be a Royal Commission that blows out like so many before it has.
That was Justin Quill speaking to us.